Welcome to the Hollywood in Toto podcast, the right take on entertainment. The HiT cast offers a weekly look at Hollywood from a conservative point of view. Sick of media bias infecting Hollywood headlines? Tired of stars insulting your views? HiT has your back. Now, here's your host, Christian Toto.
Welcome to episode 101 of the Hollywood in Toto podcast, the right take on entertainment. This week we're speaking with actor Max Martini. He's the writer, director, and star of Sergeant Will Gardner. It's a powerful new film about a veteran processing both a traumatic brain injury and the emotional wounds that come along with his wartime. Max's commitment to U.S. veterans is really impressive and unwavering. You can see it in every frame of the new film. This week's show is sponsored by Speakeasy Ideas. Here's a message from homeschooling families from Dr. Thomas Kranowiter, president of Speakeasy Ideas. Freedom is never more than one generation away from being lost, depending in large measure on how free citizens educate their children. And while we have no shortage of problems in the modern U.S., the future is brighter, more hopeful due to the good work to which you've dedicated yourself, teaching your kids. Speakeasy Ideas wants to be your partner for homeschool civic education. That's why we've introduced a new online civics course complete with curriculum titled The Political Science of the American Founding. This course will help your student become prepared for the rights and duties of being a citizen by learning the political science behind the great American experiment in constitutional self-government. The political science of the American founding is the result of Dr. Kranowiter's own scholarly research and writing combined with years of experience teaching American government at Claremont McKenna College, Hillsdale College, and George Mason University. The materials included in this course have been selected, arranged, and packaged to supplement all kinds of curricula. You can easily modify these materials to be used for many learning levels, ranging from young students to high schoolers. To learn more about the new online civics class for homeschoolers, I invite you to go to speakeasyideas.com/homeschool. That's speakeasyideas.com/homeschool. And congratulations to you and your homeschooling children. And thank you again for your good work and your interest in a sound civic education. Well, it's official. The 2019 Oscar ceremonies will be host-free. I guess if that makes the night shorter, it's a step in the right direction, but otherwise, it's a really big embarrassment, to say the very least. Kevin Hart's shocking dismissal for old thought crimes gave way to, well, nothing. It's ironic that the last host, the two-timer Jimmy Kimmel, once dressed up in blackface on a TV show, but he never felt the sting of the outrage mob. Funny that. Either way, hosting the Oscars, that's a gig no sane person wants these days, and you can't blame them. The pay is modest. Social critics are never, ever pleased with what's done. The online mob will analyze every gesture, every syllable, to find some sort of offense. It's unavoidable. That's why the Academy should go out and hire Ricky Gervais and say, hey, Ricky, go for it. And just stand there and defend every barb he says. Every last one. It could have been a grandstand against PC groupthink, against the comedy scolds, trying to tell us that every joke has to have a woke agenda. Instead, as we know, Hart got fired under 2 days after being nominated as host, and every other comedian scrambled. They didn't want to get vetted for jokes they've told 10, 20, 30 years ago. Who wants that? That is going to make some click-hungry journalist happy to get a scalp? No, thank you. That's why there's going to be no host this year. And it wouldn't really shock me if the same thing happened next year. I mean, just imagine how crazy the culture is now. Flash forward 12 months? This could be the good old days. The very worst part, we're already hearing that there's going to be some Trump zingers told by a gaggle of stars assembled throughout the night. Great. Another uber woke extravaganza as partisan as a CNN headline tour. Man, if this wasn't my job, I would watch anything at all, rather than the Oscars come February 24th.
Don't touch that dial. You're listening to my daddy's podcast.
Here's the HiT tweet of the week. You may not know the name Zoe Kazan, but she's a gainfully employed actress, and most recently we watched her in The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. She's a good, talented actress. And she, of course, is desperate to defend Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from, well, herself. So Zoe sent out the following tweet. Because liberal women are so strong, so powerful, and so amazing, they must be protected from scrutiny at all costs. Here we go. What they are doing to AOC is not just designed to shame her. It is designed to shame all young women into thinking they could not run for office, that old videos or pictures or rumors of them would surface, and they could never dress or act or speak unimpeachably enough. Yep, Zoe fell for the fake news line that all the conservatives were pounding AOC for that dancing video. How sad is that? Nothing further from the truth. My hit tip of the week is Patriot. This Amazon Prime original stars Michael Dorman. I've not seen him before, but he's quite good. He's playing an undercover intelligence officer trying to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. But that sounds like a typical spy show. This is nothing of the kind. It's silly, it's absurd, it's sublime at times. It's beautifully produced, like some of the best TV shows around. And I mentioned the recent TV programming, like Bodyguard. I mean, they just like their movies combined into a serial format. It's just amazing. The cast here is excellent. Gil Bellows, Kurtwood Smith, Mark Brune Jr. from Sons of Anarchy. And each sequence of the show, it just has a new surprise waiting for me. It's unlike any TV series I've seen yet. And I think, given the glut of TV shows, that's saying something. Now, I'm only 2 episodes in, so I haven't seen a lot of this show, but I still highly recommend it. It's just original, and I suspect it's not for everyone. It's quirky, it's weird, it's not really linear in the traditional sense, and I think some people are going to be turned off by the approach. But you know what? It's so good, so bold, and so different. I want to recommend it anyway, just in the chance that it kind of hits a target with you. I think you're going to love it. The first 2 seasons of Patriot are available now on Amazon Prime.
You're listening to the Hollywood in Toto podcast, the right take on entertainment.
Now let's get to this week's HitCast interview. Max Martini has been working steadily in Hollywood for years. Think Saving Private Ryan, 13 Hours, and TV's The Unit, a very good character actor. His passion project, though, it took a long time to get to the big screen, but it finally happened. He's the star, he's the director, and the writer of Sergeant Will Gardner. It's about a U.S. military veteran who has suffered a pretty significant brain injury. And now he's just trying to clear his mind, trying to reconfigure his life, trying to get a grip of what's going to happen with the rest of it. So he hits the road on his motorcycle and meets some pretty cool people along the way. Got a very good supporting cast, including Robert Patrick and Gary Sinise. And part of the film's profits are going to go to veterans-related charity groups. How cool is that? I was really happy he shared some time with me and also just talked about not only just the movie itself, but his career, veterans in general, and a little bit about masculinity. Seems like it's under attack in our culture, and Max Martini's here to defend it. Here's my chat with Max Martini. Well, Max, thank you for joining the show. You know, Sergeant Will Gardner is about PTSD, obviously, and veterans and healing. But what jumped out at me about the film is that it's about connections, how we connect with people often unexpectedly in our lives. And I thought that was one of the most beautiful parts of the film. Can you talk about that element of the movie? Because that's what I came away with, in a sense.
You know, my intention behind the film was to, I wanted the lead character to take a journey, and an emotional journey, a physical journey, and that the characters along the way would facilitate his healing, in a manner of speaking. So yeah, I mean, it was there. I just wanted the cast to be very simple, and I wanted everyone that played a role, that character to be searching for something, and so there's a sense of self-discovery for each and every player in the film, in my mind.
Yeah, obviously this was all began. You went to Iraq and you saw what was going on there, and you thought about a film like this. Back then, what jumped out at you? I mean, obviously you're visiting soldiers, and their stories, I'm sure, impacted you. But was there a specific emotion or a specific, hey, I need to get this story to the big screen, which is something you've done after 9 years?
Well, my trips to Iraq were profound moments in my life. I mean, they really were life-changing. And I had met an Army Ranger there. I befriended this Army Ranger and stayed in combat with him, in communication with him while he was in combat. And you know, at one point he started to use me as a springboard, and you know, was bouncing these concerns off me. And I think things that he was experiencing, sleep deprivation, anger issues, and I'll preface by saying that he survived a couple IEDs and lost his entire team on one. He was the only survivor, and so but he was petrified to come forward and ask for help. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when he got back to the U.S., he had an awful time reintegrating. And at that point in my life, I had a large base of military buddies that some of which were experiencing similar conditions. And, you know, I thought that this would be a type of service. You know, to my country. I didn't serve in the military. It's you know, been a regret of mine, actually. But I do feel like there's a major need for help today. Mm-hmm. And, you know, these things aren't front page news anymore. They really should be. There's a card at the end of my movie that you saw that, you know, has some very sobering statistics on it. There's still a lot of veterans that need help out there. And without these, my movie is supporting 3 charities. We're giving 30% of the profits away. And so each charity is receiving 10% of the profits. And these 3 charities that we found, you know, are not spending crazy amounts of money on overhead and administrative costs. They're actually really getting money and assistance to veterans and changing lives. So I think it's important, you know, and hopefully my movie inspires people to get involved with these kind of organizations that are making up where the VA fails in some cases.
Yeah. We're going to have information about all those different charities on the show notes page and the links to them as well. So you can go to there and find out all the information. Your film took about 9 years or so to come together. I saw an interview with you on Fox News. It was maybe 2013. I mean, that's sometimes the way Hollywood works. But I do feel like the culture is changing. In the last couple of years, I feel like we've gotten a better understanding of where veterans are, where they come from, how they heal, why we need to support them. Do you get that sense as well that maybe no one wants the movie to take so long to get made, but the fact that it's coming out now, maybe there's sort of a fortuitous element to it, because I think we're ready for it now more than ever.
Well, you know, I'm glad that you say that, because I live in a bit of a bubble in Hollywood, you know, and we're, you know, unfortunately being part of this industry, you know, you find yourself so consumed with survival, you know, that you don't really have a clear understanding of where, you know, what the temperature is out there, especially with the veterans, because, you know, Hollywood is you know, let me I'm going to back away from that, what I was going to say. So the look, I think that this is very unique, this movie, and that it's giving back. I don't know that it's done that before. I know I don't know that films have done that before. I don't think, to my knowledge, that there has been a movie that's given back to charity, especially this much of the profit margin. But hopefully it can lead by example and set the stage for others to do the same. You know, this movie took a very long time to find funding for, because one, it's a passion project. It doesn't scream commercial sales, and two, because we were giving so much back to charity, financiers were reluctant to get involved without a charitable write-off, and we couldn't offer that. So there were moments where we had half of the funding together and we couldn't close, or we had all of it and somebody would pull out, but the project would never die. Mm-hmm. And I believe in my heart that it was the charitable driving force behind it, which kept it alive and finally brought us to fruition.
I recently interviewed the director of a movie called Instant Family about foster care and adoption, and he said that he was the most nervous to screen his movie in front of people in that community because they would know if he was getting it right, if he was going to be authentic or not. Have you screened this particular film, Sergeant Will Gardner, for veterans at this point? Is it, I don't know how the cycle is as far as who's seen it yet.
I have. It was horrifying.
Gosh.
But the response has been tremendous, and I really this movie packs a heavy emotional punch, but there's a lot of comedy in it, and I think it's entertaining. The laughs are consistent, the tears are consistent, and people walk away having had a real cinematic experience, I think, and so I wanted to want a fine line. You see these movies about PTSD, and they really just sort of beat you over the head with this kind of imagery and subject matter that's so hard to digest. And I wanted to communicate what some veterans are experiencing post-combat, but I wanted to keep my central character heroic and inspirational, and and someone that you're really rooting for, because I'm rooting for the veterans that have fallen shy.
I think this movie reminds me of last year's Thank You for Your Service, because again the message is similar, but it is at the end of the day entertaining, and I think that's a critical component, because otherwise it could be like a school lecture where it's good for you, but it's not exactly compelling. But I think your film manages to do both quite well. We're talking with veteran actor turned director Max Martini, the star and creative force behind a new movie, Sergeant Will Gardner, co-starring Dermot Mulroney, Lily Rabe, and of course Gary Sinise. I watched your film and I thought, this doesn't look like a guy with one film credit to his name, being in director's chair. Did you find yourself to be kind of a natural at it? Did you have maybe directors you've worked with in the past who you kind of had them influence you? What was it like kind of directing a movie like this?
Well, there's definitely been people in my past in Hollywood that I've watched with a very close eye, that I really respect as directors and filmmakers. So I think that I drew a little bit maybe from those people, but I really had such a clear vision as to what I wanted to do, and I did so much research. I did a lot of interviewing buddies of mine that were veterans, and friends of mine from social media that were veterans, and everybody was so forthcoming with information and stories and experiences that by the time I got to the first day of filming, I was slightly nervous in that I wanted to see how well I could sort of step in front of the camera and then shut the character down and get behind the camera and talk about all the technical aspects of what we were making, and then get back in front of the camera. So but at the end of the day, it lasted about 24 hours, and by day 2, I was I was doing it with complete ease. So
excellent. When I think about more recent Hollywood movies about the U.S. military, it's been kind of an ebb and a flow. During the 2000s, there was more of an emphasis on the negative side of the military, and maybe the mission was wrong. And I think since then there's been a more positive outlook on the U.S. soldier. What's your take on where does Hollywood get it right, and what do you think there's room for improvement when movies capture the veterans and the military heroes?
Well, look, this was what I wanted to back away from initially, but let's delve into it. I think that within Hollywood, especially, it's like the Hollywood has a bad rap in terms of supporting veterans because it's very liberal, and I think that people assume that if you're liberal, you don't support the military. It's absolutely not true. Politics aside, we're recruiting kids into a voluntary, military armed forces that there was a point in combat when we were literally taking kids from basic and throwing them out onto the front line. So, I mean, but they're out there risking their lives. And I think that I can tell you that from my experience in crewing up and casting for this film, people so desperately wanted to be a part of this storytelling because of the driving force behind it, which is, our give back to charity. They were so supportive of the troops and so supportive of helping at this point in time and lending their services for free, essentially. I mean, nobody made any money on this movie. Everybody got paid a fraction of what they normally make. And so that was really nice to see, because, yes, I think that my business should be very supportive of the troops. I mean, we have the eyes and ears of so many fans and people that we can be a huge driving influence in helping create some change in our country. So my experience with this movie was exceptional, and if you're seeing a change in temperature, then I can attest that in the last couple of years of making this film, that I've also been privy to that. But let's see, man. I mean, everybody in this movie did it for that reason, and that reason alone.
You mentioned before that your trip to Iraq kind of changed you in a profound way. Did making this movie change you as an artist? I mean, you kind of emerged from this experience with a different take on Hollywood or your career or the kind of roles you want to do. I mean, did it have anything like that kind of an impact on you, or is you're a working actor and you're going to keep doing the best you do? Or what, I'm just going to kind of. This seems like when you complete a passion project, I imagine it could be transformative.
Yeah, it was transformative. I mean, this, it's funny. I'm actually going through a bit of I'm at a little bit of a crossroads in my career now, and that I've been fortunate to have been part of so many military movies, great ones, the retelling of these historical events, and being part of these A-list teams. It's just been I've been so blessed to have been chosen. I don't know why I was chosen. I'm fooling everybody apparently, but but yeah, and then you get to a point where I am an actor, and so I don't know if this is my curtain calls, in terms of military roles. I really it's so much of who I am right now that I want to play different characters. But I also, have a big fan base with the military. So I'm trying to make a decision. It's a tough one. But yes, it was transformative creatively. Going to Iraq was transformative in that I think that, I've said it in a few interviews. I think I missed a beat, a calling maybe. I really think that I would have loved to have served. And I think that certain people have inherent leadership qualities. I think I have those. One of the moments that I had when I stepped foot, on the first fob, was that, I found myself looking out into a sea of pimply faces. I was completely dumbfounded by the average age of our soldier being so young. And, and I had this moment of like, gosh, I could have led these guys, like I had. So I think that, look, I mean, that's been a big part of my journey, that moment, and so because I had that experience in the Middle East, I really take these military roles very seriously, and I think it shows. I mean, I get called out a lot. People say, "Hey, man, your weapons work is really on point," or you're how could you never have served? You know what I mean? Like, they just don't understand it, but it's been a great ride. It really has.
I read a quote of yours. It's from maybe a few years ago from Maxim, and I wanted to kind of if you could expand on it because I thought it was kind of killer. You said there's also a shortage of men in this business, authentic men, not hairless 22-year-old boys that we dress up like men. I mean, real men with balls. We need more of them. And I was kind of curious, from a maybe even behind the scenes and in front of the camera, how would you like to see that kind of play out? What is sort of the big picture, no pun intended, of that kind of that thinking?
Well, I mean, look, it's really frustrating for me. This is where 13 Hours was really successful, I think, in that they put together, a team of men, to play these contractors, because the tendency in Hollywood is to cast really young and to put boys in men's shoes prematurely, because they think that they're going to sell more tickets that way, or they think that I don't know, Justin Bieber at 19 is worth more than I don't know who the man of the week is, but so. I mean, I don't know. What was your question? Was it, where do I think it's going?
Or just to kind of expand on because I thought it was such an interesting comment. Yeah. And I think there are other people who have similar thoughts about sort of authenticity from sort of stars. And I was just kind of curious because, I mean, and we also heard about, people acting badly behind the scenes, and a real man doesn't do that. That's, a real man would protect someone who would not sort of do something untoward toward a woman. And
I mean, look, I'm a little old school, and then I believe in, like, I was raised, saying yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. I'm trying to raise my boys the same way. I think manners are have been, lost in time, and I just kind of there's certain qualities that define a man, and I think that because the media is so influential, you open up a magazine and the photos that you see of men modeling, men's clothing, or they're kids. They're like 14-year-old, kids from, I don't know where they're pulling these guys from, but they're not, nobody uses men anymore. So, I'd love to see that come back. I mean, and especially, it's been at the level of filmmaking that I've been lucky to live at, with these war films and combat movies. It's they have cast men around me, so that's a good thing. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing more frustrating, and also bad tactical work drives me crazy.
Gotcha. Max, before we let you go, a quick comment. You've got some other artists and actors in your family. If your boys one day came up to you and said, "Hey, I want to get into Hollywood. I want to be an actor like you, Dad," what would be the sort of the key advice you'd give them?
Well, funny you say that. My son plays my son in the movie.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so that's actually my youngest boy, and he petitioned very hard for the role, and went to acting school for it, and really worked at it, and came in and crushed it, and but has no desire to act. At all, which wants to play soccer. So I'm not going to argue with him. I wouldn't. It's a tough business, and I'm all for honing your creative side of your brain, but this is a tough one to crack.
Yeah,
so.
Actually, that introductory scene, and I won't spoil much more of it, is really emotional when your character meets your son again. But I don't want to get too much. I don't want to spoil the movie. Max, thank you so much for joining the HiTcast. Please do yourself a favor and go see Sergeant Will Gardner in theaters and video on demand January 11th. It's really good storytelling. It pays homage to the troops. And you know what? If you want to support smart movies that are positive, original, and also get entertained at the same time, see this movie. Thanks again, Max, and I look forward to more of your movies.
So nice. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thanks again for listening. Don't forget to check out HollywoodandToto.com for both the show notes and, of course, the latest entertainment news. Please follow me at Twitter at HollywoodandToto. And we'd love it if you leave a podcast review over at iTunes. See you next week.